Here's something most Americans don't know just happened inside the Federal Reserve right now. After pulling more than $2 trillion out of the banking system over 3 years, the Fed quietly stopped in December, freezing its balance sheet at $6.5 trillion. Now, just months later, the Fed may need to start pumping money back in. Not because inflation is fixed, because cracks are showing in the financial system. If that happens while your mortgage and savings are still adjusting to higher rates, it hits your wallet directly, whether you notice the headline or not at all. This is the unthinkable part of the story. Stick with me through this breakdown. The Federal Reserve spent 3 straight years shrinking its balance sheet to fight inflation hard. That process, called quantitative tightening, pulled trillions of dollars out of the banking system. At its peak in 2022, the Fed's balance sheet reached nearly $9 trillion. By the time shrinking officially stopped, it had fallen to around $6.5 trillion. More than $2 trillion removed from the financial system over roughly 3 years total. That officially ended on December 1st, when the Fed froze the balance sheet completely. Chairman Kevin Warsh confirmed the shrinking was over, calling it a deliberate pause for review. But a pause is very different from a genuine, sustainable, long-term policy resolution here. Because almost immediately after that pause, cracks began showing in short-term funding markets nationwide. Money market funds started draining cash from the Fed's overnight facilities at a faster pace. That cash gets used to buy short-term government debt funding the federal deficit directly. This shift caused a real, measurable drop in bank reserves across the entire system. Bank reserves moved from what officials call abundant down toward merely adequate levels quickly. That distinction matters more than it sounds. Reserves are the system's essential lubrication. When reserves get too thin, short-term borrowing costs can spike without warning suddenly. That is exactly what happened in September 2019, forcing an emergency Fed intervention then. Analysts are now watching for a repeat of that exact scenario happening again soon. Subscribe right now if you want to understand what this actually means for your money. Drop a comment and tell me if you've noticed your bank or credit card rates shifting. Watch until the end. This connects directly to your mortgage, your job, and your savings. Here is why this decision is being called unthinkable by serious financial analysts today. For 3 years, the Fed's entire inflation-fighting strategy relied on removing money from circulation. Shrinking the balance sheet was supposed to make borrowing tighter and slow the economy down. Now, less than a year later, the Fed may need to reverse that completely. Adding money back into the system through what officials are calling reserve management purchases. That is a softer name for something that functions very similarly to money printing. The Fed insists this would not be quantitative easing in the traditional stimulus sense. But the practical effect on liquidity and bank reserves looks remarkably similar either way. This reversal would happen while inflation remains stubbornly above the Fed's own 2% target. Recent data showed inflation running near 3% on both headline and core measures. That is not a crisis-level number, but it is meaningfully above where the Fed wants it. Printing money while inflation sits above target is historically an unusual and risky combination. Central banks are typically trained to tighten policy when inflation runs hot, not ease. This is precisely why economists are calling this moment genuinely unprecedented in recent memory. The Fed's own internal disagreement makes this even more significant to pay attention to. At the July 29th meeting, the Federal Open Market Committee voted 9-3. 3 separate officials dissented from the decision to hold rates steady that day. That level of public disagreement inside the Fed is historically rare and noteworthy. Chairman Warsh described the decision as a rigorous review, not a simple pause. He specifically said, "This is the beginning of a story, not the end of one." That phrase alone should catch the attention of anyone paying attention to monetary policy. Meanwhile, the bond market has been sending its own independent signal for months now. The 30-year Treasury yield climbed above 5.1% in recent trading sessions. The 10-year Treasury yield sits near 4.65% as of early August. These are levels that reflect real concern about long-term inflation and fiscal sustainability combined. Even as the Fed debates whether to ease policy, long-term borrowing costs remain elevated. That disconnect between Fed policy and bond market pricing is the core tension here. The Fed controls short-term rates directly through its federal funds rate target range. But long-term yields are set by bond market buyers and sellers independently instead. Right now, those two forces are pulling in different directions at the exact same time. This tension shows up immediately in something every American household understands very well. The 30-year fixed mortgage rate remains stubbornly elevated despite multiple Fed rate cuts already. Homebuyers are facing some of the toughest affordability conditions in recent decades right now. If the Fed does pivot back toward expanding its balance sheet again soon, it could ease short-term funding stress, but that doesn't guarantee lower mortgage rates immediately. Long-term rates depend on inflation expectations, deficit spending, and investor confidence in Treasury debt. Printing more money while running a large federal deficit tends to raise inflation expectations further. Higher inflation expectations tend to push long-term yields higher, not lower, over time. This is the paradox facing the Fed right now, and it is a genuine one. Ease too much, and inflation expectations could reaccelerate, pushing long-term rates even higher. Ease too little, and funding market stress could trigger a sudden liquidity crisis instead. There is no clean, risk-free path forward from where the Fed currently stands. This is precisely why calling this moment unthinkable is not exaggeration for effect. It reflects a Federal Reserve caught between two genuinely difficult and competing outcomes today. The federal government's fiscal position adds even more pressure to this entire equation. The national debt now exceeds $37 trillion, growing by trillions every single year. Interest payments on that debt have surpassed $400 billion per quarter recently. That is more than the government spends on national defense in the same period. Every dollar the Fed injects into the system interacts directly with that fiscal reality. A Fed that prints money to ease funding stress also indirectly eases government borrowing costs. Critics argue this blurs the line between independent monetary policy and fiscal support entirely. Fed independence has become an actively debated topic among economists and market analysts this year. Chairman Warsh has specifically stated one of his goals is proving genuine Fed independence. That statement itself reveals how seriously this question is being taken inside the institution. Markets are watching closely for any sign that independence is compromised in practice, because a central bank that loses independence tends to lose credibility with global investors. And a central bank that loses credibility tends to see its currency lose value too. This is not a small technical detail buried in a Federal Reserve press release. This is a structural question about the foundation of the entire U.S. financial system. Every American holding dollars, treasury bonds, or dollar-denominated assets has a stake in this outcome. The decisions being debated right now inside the Fed will shape borrowing costs for years. They will shape inflation, mortgage rates, and the value of savings for everyday households. Understanding what's actually happening here puts you ahead of headlines that arrive months later. The mechanics behind this Fed reversal reveal something much larger unfolding across the global system. That larger story connects directly to how the world is beginning to rethink dollar reliance. Stay sharp, because the next layer of this story gets even more directly personal. Let's go deeper into why funding markets are actually showing stress right now specifically. The repo market is where banks borrow cash overnight, using treasury bonds as collateral. This market is the plumbing beneath the entire American financial system, quietly operating daily. When that plumbing works smoothly, borrowing costs stay stable and predictable for everyone involved. When it doesn't, short-term interest rates can spike suddenly, catching markets off guard. Recently, cash sitting at the Fed's overnight reverse repo facility has been draining steadily. That cash is flowing instead towards short-term government debt, known as Treasury bills. The Treasury has been issuing enormous amounts of short-term debt to fund the deficit. That heavy short-term issuance pulls cash out of the banking system at a rapid pace. As that cash leaves, bank reserves shrink, and reserves are what keep lending smooth. The Fed itself has acknowledged reserves moved from abundant toward merely adequate territory recently. That is a technical way of saying the cushion protecting the system is thinning. This is precisely the setup that triggered a sudden funding crisis back in September 2019. Overnight lending rates spiked dramatically that week, forcing an emergency Fed intervention within days. The Fed does not want a repeat of that scenario playing out publicly again. That is the real reason officials are discussing reserve management purchases right now seriously. In plain language, that means the Fed buying Treasury bills to rebuild reserve cushions. Officials are careful to separate this from quantitative easing, the stimulus tool used previously. They argue this is about system plumbing, not about stimulating economic growth directly. But here's the uncomfortable truth that many analysts have pointed out clearly and repeatedly. Whether it's called quantitative easing or reserve management, the balance sheet still grows either way. More money enters the system, more liquidity becomes available, and reserves get rebuilt. That expansion happens regardless of what label officials choose to attach to it publicly. And it happens at a moment when inflation is still running above the Fed's target. This is the exact tension driving the word unthinkable into serious financial conversations recently. Now let's connect this directly to something every American feels every single month reliably. The 30-year fixed mortgage rate has remained stubbornly above 6% for months now, despite the Federal Reserve cutting its short-term policy rate several times over the past year. That disconnect confuses a lot of people who assume Fed cuts mean cheaper mortgages automatically. Here's the mechanic. Nobody explains clearly enough on mainstream financial coverage most of the time. Mortgage rates track the 10-year Treasury yield far more closely than the Fed's policy rate. The 10-year yield is set by bond market investors pricing long-term inflation and risk. If the Fed expands its balance sheet while inflation stays elevated, investors get nervous. Nervous bond investors demand higher yields to compensate for the risk of holding long-term debt. Higher 10-year yields translate directly into higher 30-year mortgage rates for American homebuyers everywhere. This is why a Fed pivot toward easing could paradoxically keep mortgage rates elevated, rather than bringing the relief that headlines about rate cuts usually promise the public. This paradox is exactly what happened through parts of this year already, worth noting clearly. The Fed cut short-term rates multiple times, yet long-term yields stayed near multi-decade highs. The 30-year Treasury yield crossed 5% for extended stretches throughout the year, a level unseen consistently since before the 2008 financial crisis began unfolding. That is the bond market voting independently on America's long-term fiscal and inflation outlook. And that vote has not been particularly confident in recent months based on pricing. Now add the national debt picture into this equation because it matters enormously here. The United States national debt has crossed $37 trillion in outstanding total obligations. Interest payments alone now exceed $400 billion every single quarter of the year. That figure has grown large enough to surpass the entire national defense budget recently. Every additional dollar the Fed injects into the system interacts directly with this debt burden. A Fed that eases policy indirectly makes it easier for the government to keep borrowing. Critics call this fiscal dominance, when debt servicing needs start influencing monetary policy decisions. Fed officials publicly reject that characterization, insisting their decisions remain purely economically driven and independent. But markets watch actions, not statements, and the actions here speak fairly clearly. 3 officials dissented from the Fed's most recent decision to hold rates steady in July. That level of open disagreement inside the Federal Open Market Committee is genuinely rare historically. It signals real uncertainty at the highest levels about which direction policy should move next. Chairman Kevin Warsh has repeatedly emphasized his commitment to proving the Fed remains independent. That kind of statement is rarely made unless independence itself is being seriously questioned publicly. Markets pay close attention to Fed independence because it underpins confidence in the dollar. A central bank seen as politically influenced tends to lose credibility with global investors gradually. Reduced credibility tends to show up first in weaker demand for that nation's currency, and weaker currency demand tends to show up in higher long-term borrowing costs eventually. This is not a uniquely American phenomenon. It has happened in other economies before. Argentina, Turkey, and other nations have experienced currency and bond crises tied to independence concerns. The United States is nowhere near that level of crisis. That must be stated clearly. The dollar remains the world's dominant reserve currency by a significant and measurable margin still. But the questions being raised about Fed independence are genuinely new for modern American markets. And new questions tend to create new sources of volatility that didn't previously exist. Gold prices have reflected some of this uncertainty, trading near record highs this year. Investors buying gold are often signaling reduced confidence in paper currencies and central bank policy. The trend has been building globally, not just in response to Federal Reserve decisions alone. Central banks around the world have been buying gold at a record pace recently, partly as insurance against exactly this kind of monetary policy, uncertainty, and currency risk. For the average American, none of this requires panic, but it does require attention. Understanding that mortgage rates, savings account yields, and retirement account values are all connected here. They are connected through this exact chain: Fed policy, bond yields, and investor confidence. If the Fed does begin reserve management purchases in the coming months, as expected, watch closely whether the 10-year and 30-year Treasury yields respond by falling or rising. If yields rise despite the Fed easing, that signals the bond market doesn't trust the move. If yields fall in response, that signals more confidence in the Fed's stated intentions. That single data point will tell you more than any headline or press conference will. This is the kind of signal that patient, informed investors watch closely and consistently, rather than reacting emotionally to whatever headline dominates financial media on a given day. The Federal Reserve's next moves will shape borrowing costs, inflation, and currency confidence for years. Every American with a mortgage, a savings account, or a retirement fund has a stake here. Whether or not the full mechanics ever get explained clearly in mainstream financial coverage. Understanding this now puts you ahead of headlines that typically arrive months too late. The scale of what's unfolding inside the Federal Reserve right now is genuinely historic in nature. Now let's zoom out and connect this Federal Reserve story to the global financial picture. Because America is not the only major economy facing this exact monetary policy tension. Japan's central bank has been raising rates after decades of near-zero interest policy. Japan's 40-year government bond yield reached the highest level in its recorded history recently. That forces Japanese institutions to reconsider decades of investment flowing into American assets. Europe's central bank faces its own version of the same fundamental balancing act. managing inflation while supporting fragile growth across multiple member economies simultaneously and carefully. Every major central bank is navigating the same impossible tension the Fed faces today. Support growth and liquidity, or maintain credibility by keeping policy genuinely tight enough. This is why some analysts describe this moment as the start of a global reset. Not a sudden collapse, but a gradual repricing of trust in central bank promises. The era of essentially free, unlimited money that defined the past 15 years is ending. That era began in 2008 when central banks slashed rates to zero. It extended through the pandemic when trillions more were printed to prevent economic collapse. Combined, major central banks injected an estimated $25 trillion into the global system. That flood of cheap money inflated stocks, bonds, real estate, and nearly every asset class. Now inflation has forced a reversal, and reversals are historically far more painful than expansions. The Federal Reserve's current dilemma is simply the American chapter of this larger global story. Freeze the balance sheet, and funding markets risk seizing up like they did in 2019. Expand the balance sheet again, and inflation expectations risk reaccelerating at the wrong moment. There's no version of this choice that comes without meaningful economic consequences attached. This is exactly why the phrase unthinkable fits what's happening inside the Fed right now. For 3 years, the entire policy framework assumed shrinking the balance sheet was the priority. Reversing that assumption, even partially, represents a genuine and significant admission of limits. It suggests the financial system cannot function smoothly with as little liquidity as hoped. That is not a small technical detail. It reveals something about system fragility itself. 15 years of ultra-cheap money built a financial system dependent on constant liquidity support. Removing that support gradually, rather than restoring genuine independence from monetary intervention, proves difficult repeatedly. Every time the Fed tries to normalize policy, some corner of the system shows stress. 2019 showed it in repo markets. This year is showing it again. That pattern itself is the real story beneath the individual headlines and press conferences. Now here's what this means specifically for your financial decisions in the months ahead. Mortgage rates are unlikely to fall dramatically, even if the Fed eases policy further, because long-term rates respond to inflation expectations and fiscal sustainability, not just Fed actions alone. If you're planning to buy a home, don't assume rate relief is coming soon. Savings accounts and money market funds have offered relatively attractive yields over the past year. If the Fed expands its balance sheet, those yields could gradually decline over time. That makes now a reasonable moment to lock in longer-term rates on cash holdings. For retirement accounts, diversification becomes more important during periods of monetary policy uncertainty like this. Assets that don't depend entirely on Fed support tend to perform differently during these transitions. Gold has served that diversification role for many investors throughout this current uncertain period, not as a replacement for stocks and bonds, but as a genuine complement instead. Central banks around the world have been accumulating gold at a record pace recently. That is a signal worth paying attention to, regardless of your personal investment approach. Because when institutions with access to the best economic data hedge this way consistently, it tells you something about how seriously they view the risks currently being discussed. None of this means panic or dramatic portfolio changes made out of fear alone. It means paying attention, staying informed, and making deliberate decisions based on real mechanics, rather than reacting emotionally to headlines that oversimplify what's actually happening inside these institutions. The Federal Reserve's next moves over the coming months will be genuinely worth watching closely. Watch whether reserve management purchases actually begin, and watch how markets respond when they do. Watch the 10-year and 30-year Treasury yields for signals about investor confidence in the decision. Watch inflation data closely, because that will determine how much room the Fed truly has. These are not abstract, distant concerns reserved for economists and Wall Street professionals alone. They are the mechanics determining your mortgage rate, your savings yield, and your retirement outlook. Understanding them now, before the headlines catch up, is a genuine and practical advantage. The Fed has never faced quite this exact combination of pressures at the same time: elevated inflation, fragile funding markets, record government debt, and growing questions about its own independence. How this resolves will shape American financial conditions for years beyond this current moment. If this breakdown gave you real clarity, hit subscribe for continued coverage of this story. Drop a comment with what you think the Fed does next in the coming months. Share this with someone who needs to understand what's actually happening to their money right now. The Fed already crossed a line few expected. Understanding it early is your real advantage.